Well, our CBN chief political analyst, David Brody, is with us to talk more about the Democrats' tactics. David, the president promised to unite America, but his rhetoric is racially dividing. What do you think is going on?
Well, let's step back for a second, Pat. What the White House is going to say is that when it comes to unity, they're going to say, hey, look at the polls, that the polls are with them on certain issues, whether it be on voting laws in America, and they can go down the list, on stimulus and infrastructure and all of that. So they're using the unity card by saying the American public support this. I don't know about that, Pat, first of all. But even if it's 51, 52% in whatever polls they've got, there may be a reckoning in 2022 if they think that's what's going to get that satisfies the unity box, if you will. Look, Pat, the Democrats have had opportunity after opportunity to work with Republicans. Remember the 10 Republicans that came in on the stimulus bill into the White House, and there was a deal to be had. It was a smaller deal, but there was a deal to be had. Democrats and the Biden administration didn't want to do it. So what happened? Budget reconciliation, and they passed the 2 point, whatever it is, trillion, I've lost count, of the money. And now we're at that same spot again in this infrastructure bill. Looks like Democrats are going to go it alone. So this idea of unity, working with Republicans, it's been a bunch of hogwash, Pat.
Well, David, the whole idea of shovel-ready infrastructure, there are so many government laws and permits that have to be filled out that it'll take years before anything can start being built. Am I right now?
Well, 100%. And then, of course, with Democrats, you're going to have all the EPA regulations as well on top of that as certain burdens. So you put all of that together. But look, inside this infrastructure bill, and it's still being worked out, but under $2.2 trillion, it could be more than that on this infrastructure bill, only about $200 billion. Like 5 or 10%. I mean, I've actually looked at some of what's inside this bill. $200 billion goes to infrastructure. What else is in there? I mean, it's everything in the kitchen sink, Pat. $400 billion to go to helping the elderly, long-term care. Look, I think we're all for helping the elderly, but that's called a social safety net. This $400 billion is above and beyond the social safety net. And then there's some sort of climate crisis task force that's going to cost $10 billion. What does that have to do with infrastructure? And I think what we're seeing here, Pat, is that there's two infrastructures really at play here with the Democrats. One, the infrastructure of highways, bridges, and roads, and the other infrastructure, what Democrats really want to do is actually remake the infrastructure from a social perspective, the social fabric of America. That's the other part of the infrastructure bill. They won't call it infrastructure, but that's exactly what it is.
Well, David, he's got to raise taxes in order to make all this happen. I understand Manchin and possibly, maybe Warner and other Democrats are against some of his programs. What do you think?
Well, they are, Pat, but I think it's just at the margins at this point. In other words, the corporate tax rate right now is 21%. Biden wants it at 28%. Manchin says, no, I'm not going for 28%. I'm more like at 25%. So this corporate tax rate under the Democrats' plan, either way, even with or without Manchin's support, it's going to go up. So Manchin is okay with 25%. So this is going up. And now at this point, it's a long story. We don't have to get into the Senate parliamentarian right now. But the bottom line is the Senate parliamentarian, in essence, ruling, and we're going to look closer at the ruling, but basically saying that Democrats can use budget reconciliation as well for the infrastructure bill coming up. So that means that Democrats can go it alone again, just like they did with the stimulus bill.
Well, it's a horrible thing when you've got a tissue of lies coming out. The American people are being lied at continuously. And like calling this social program an infrastructure bill, are they ever going to stop? Do you think? Can we ever get the truth?
I tell you what, Pat, it's been difficult. I'll be honest with you. They always get on Donald Trump's case for not telling the truth. Well, what about Joe Biden, what he just did with his Georgia election law? I mean, when you have the Washington Post, as you've mentioned at the top of the show, giving Joe Biden 4 Pinocchios, that says something. And this idea that this is Jim Crow 2.0, look, I don't even know where to begin with this, but the truth of the matter is that in the Georgia election law, the state is obligated to provide free, that's right, I said it, free identification for people that don't have identification. And by the way, 72% of Americans believe having ID is a good thing. And then I can go into a whole lot more. All you have to do in Georgia right now, Pat, is show a utility bill under this new law, and that satisfies the ID requirement. So this idea that it's burdensome, look, they're playing the race card. This is what they do. They've done it for decades. This is nothing new, Pat.
Thank you, David. Ladies and gentlemen, the truth shall set you free, but we're sure not getting any truth these days.